And okay, well, hello everyone, and welcome to a very special webinar. We're so happy you're here. Apologies for the slight delay. There's always a lot of stuff going on, but we'll give ourselves an extra 5 minutes after. Welcome to the last painting webinar of 2020. Today is Wednesday, December 30th, and I have to think ever since March. I feel like I have to think twice or have a calendar in front of me because it's been that long, and I still can't believe um, I'm having such a hard time remembering the dates. But yeah, we appreciate that you guys are here. We decided to also squeeze in a painting webinar this week. This is the year that we've painted the most collections of paintings, just because since we didn't have the breaks and the traveling, we've done 51 collections of paintings, you guys. So one short of an entire year. I don't know what that week was, but 51, it was probably before March, 51 collections of paintings. And so yeah, a quick preview. We posted some images on the folder. Thanks for picking some of those. And a couple of notes. Darlene, if you're here, that image that you sent, it's also good. So if you want, select both, and then you make your choice later, because one is more related to this theme, the other one it's less related, but it's very spectacular. So it could have a different narrative. And Jen, how are you, love?
Hi, I'm great. Sorry, my little arrow was on the very other side of the screen. Hello.
Hi, friend. So yeah, it seems like we made it to the last week.
We did it.
And
Well, let's not count our chickens yet. Lord only knows. We'll have a power outage or something.
right, yeah, true. Yeah, very true. But yeah, I just wanted to thank you for being on the other side, helping us all.
Absolutely. I'm here for you guys.
Um, Thank you, thank you. So I'm not gonna. I think this is gonna be like last session. I missed doing the Ruthless Dog and Pony shows because it's an opportunity to dig deeper and find references and find conceptual elements. So we didn't have time, and we still want to do it. I don't know how, but we want to do one for last week and this week. But this will be a session in which we're going to start painting and sketching, and at the same time we'll bring up themes and ideas. And some of you have already emailed some images about these themes, so it's just going to be a combination of both. So I don't want to take too much time with the introduction, but I'm choosing an image that I actually here we go. So I don't know if you can see it, but this is a picture that I took this morning. Um, it's probably, I'm gonna try to keep the ranting to a minimum level. It's just gonna, it's inevitable, but people from the future need to contextualize this webinar with what's going on uh, in the world. But more than any other year, I just see these trees already popping up. And this was yesterday on our street. But the other day we went to a restaurant for takeout, you guys, and I think it was the day after or the 28th, and there were already trees outside on the curb. And it's usually a sad view for several reasons. But I think this year it's taking a different note, just because, at least personally, it takes less of an environmental note and more the fact that this takes such a long time to produce. There's so much anticipation. It's so fun to get all the trees decked out with garlands and shiny things and crystals. And decorations, it just seems very hard to believe that someone would strip everything down and just a few days after. There's something about this year that seeing these stripped down trees outside so early, it has a different layer of sadness. The fact that they didn't even wait this sort of like period between Christmas and New Year's, which I think it still considers somehow holiday like. No, it's just the day after, clean everything up and then box it up and put the tree out. It's just kind of like tragic. But anyhow, so I'm just gonna go ahead and see if I can uh, just frame this. I think that's good. And I don't want to be too close to the. All right. So the good news is that I found some websites that explain the uses of the trees after Christmas. And I learned a few things, and I forgot which tab I opened, Jen. So if you want to do a little bit of research, but there were some very interesting options for trees, for live trees after Christmas. So okay, so going back to the actual details, I'm using a 12 by 16 rectangular portrait-oriented format. I like always, before I begin, to understand what format I'm using, which is always something that has to do with size, shape, and orientation, these three elements. And then I'm able to print out, I have a Kinko's nearby, and then I'm able to do it. And I facilitate this or the process because it's good to have it side by side. If you have a digital image, that's okay. And it also works. I do it because I feel like it's better for the webinar, and also because I use the cell phone as a second camera. But this allows me to correlate or establish horizontal alignments between my drawing and the image. Technically, this is a streetscape, so there are going to be visual planes involved, perspective, diagonals, but don't get too scared about these words because we don't have to know any technical aspects about them. When space is involved, there's always the thought of bringing or being aware of visual planes, which means how to organize things from being closer to the viewer, a little bit further away, where the background is. And also another thing that's important, what's horizontal and what's upright. So all those elements come together and become part of my thinking process when I actually start breaking down the sketch of the subject. So anyhow, I just cropped the image also, and I just align it to the top. So the first thing that I'm going to do with this is find out if there are any lines that I can use. Because it's a streetscape and it involves space, there's generally a little bit more of a forgiving aspect. And the first lines that I'm placing are lines that are clearly either cropped along the edges of the photograph or they have continuity. So I want to establish background set of lines, a structure, a foundation. I think that's the word I wanted to find before I start working on details. So no potato shapes here yet. And what I'm doing is focusing on axis lines. The other day after our tutorial, I was thinking about composition and how we all have this very challenging element in regards of translating an image onto our format. And it seems that we repeatedly and constantly sort of like trip onto this challenge, which tells me that I feel I should find a different way to approach it, because obviously this is something that keeps repeating itself. The fact that when we try to organize things within our format, we have challenges in arranging them. And clearly, whatever I'm talking or I'm saying is not working, because I keep seeing, like, week after week, and with some of us who have painted together for years and years, we keep encountering this um, compositional challenges that affect the edges of the painting, things getting either too close to the edges, not giving enough space. And I just feel like, yeah, I don't know how to approach it yet. But I was watching, oops, oops. Oh, thanks. Kathy, thanks for sharing that. So let me just see. Do you have any questions, any notes, Kathy? Um, okay. Let us know. You can put it in the chat, and just let us know. I know that this is more difficult than the studio time, that's more interactive. But with the chat box, we can um, hopefully compensate for that. And the reason why we do it webinar style is because some people watch this later, and we also keep it in our website for people who want to purchase the webinar on their own. Okay, no problem. Thanks, Kathy. So yeah, what I'm doing is, I was just talking about how to approach composition, and so it becomes a little bit clearer or less challenging. So what I'm doing right now, it's some kind of like structural lines for the tree, and instead of doing the Christmas tree as a potato shape, what I'm going to do is just create an axis line for it. Axis lines are great because they allow us to position, size, and arrange objects in our composition without the need of drawing the whole full figure. So in this case, I think this is working. Just because I know how tall the tree is, and then I try to synthesize the tree or simplify it with an axis line. I define an axis line as a core, or a line that runs through the core of an object. And the core of an object, I just changes depending on the object, but it would be the center, the most center-like line that you could run it. So I think that's about it. So anyhow, I'm just doing the sidewalk. It was hard to take pictures of this tree. I mean, some of the images that we posted are more interesting, but I thought since it's on the street, I'm just gonna make it more unique. And what I'll do is I'm gonna group together the trash cans in a potato shape fashion. And I just wanted to, in regards of composition, I see if I can explain it differently. The other day, somehow I started watching a documentary about the life of Robert Motherwell. He was an abstract expressionist painter in New York in the 50s and 60s, I would say. And I knew of his work, but I never watched anything about him, and I've never seen any interviews. And I was completely mesmerized and fascinated because he is an incredible, intellectually complex artist who was able to articulate a lot of the things that he was talking about in a very understanding way. And when that happens, you know it's good because it becomes universal. It could be applied to any style of painting. And a couple of anecdotes about what he said about his inspirations. But he tried to define abstraction or abstract expressionism, but more like abstraction, as a way of organizing visual elements without the crutches of narrative and figuration. So for him, it was a much more challenging way of approaching art that stripped any recognizable figure and was concentrated on visual elements, line, space, composition, texture, and all that stuff. And this got me thinking that there's something that we could be applying to our arrangement when we paint. So instead of like looking at the objects that we're seeing and associate them with an actual recognizable object, treat the composition in abstract terms, which means try to identify lines, spaces, shapes, and don't worry about what they look like and what they are. So I know that it's easier to say this than to do it, but I just feel like this is an opportunity for us to incorporate certain aspects of abstraction that could really benefit our idea of organizing or how to organize the space. So think in abstract terms. This is an opportunity to bring abstraction to our process. We always talk about, doing abstract sessions and uh, yeah. And I feel like this could be an opportunity to do that. And in regards of abstraction, I was observing in the documentary how he would just play some lines or do some brushstrokes, and then he would think. And there's a very intense thought process behind that organization because other elements that are not related to figuration are involved in the creation. So, which got me thinking in regards of what I'm doing right now, I'm just going to try to look at this in abstract terms. What shapes do I have? How do they relate to each other? How far are they from each other? Do they juxtapose? Do they cover each other? How far are they from the edges? This could be ideas or criteria that I could use during my compositional or arranging process. So think in abstract terms, space, elements, and different criteria, relationships, distances, alignments. Since we're not using color, so that wouldn't be a part of the equation. But I think that's what I wanted to talk about today in regards to composition. So if you still feel like this is something that it's not practical and this is really not applicable to your thought process and you don't understand how to think in abstract terms, so do this, just add a frame within a frame in your painting or in your format. Just as when you print something online and you use one of those like services, they give you the option to upload the image. And then there's also this red line that tells you that if you go beyond the red line, there's a chance that whatever it's on the other side, it's not going to get print out. And I always freak out because I thought, I want to put the phone number and the phone number happens to be below the red line. And then I get that notice and I'm like, you know what, this is not going to get printed out. And in fact, it is getting printed out, but they put that notice just in case that you put it way too close to the edge. So this could be another helpful, possibly more practical way of avoiding the edges of your format to get so magnetized that they start pulling the elements and creating interruptions, visual blockage, the illusion that your painting is off frame. There are a lot of problems that happen when composition is not well thought of. And as I always say, be conservative before breaking the rules. Be familiar with composition, follow more traditional rules of composition, and then you can break them and create all sorts of like personal elements. All right, so, and I'm just gonna continue, but this was my little observation about. I'm so happy we're doing this also because hopefully you chose something that's really busy, although some of the images, but in my case, this is really busy. So there's a difference between doing that aubergine from the Veggie Jesus, and the snowman was kind of like complicated, or the crow, but then doing something that has a lot of detail. You have to be creative, and in the sense that you have to decide creatively what makes the cut and what doesn't, because not everything that we see has to necessarily be part of it. I took a few shots, but I also like the image that I selected because for me, it just tells me a little bit of a narrative. There's a live tree behind, and then there's this tree right next to it that it's dead. So you can be dramatic without being dramatic. How is that? I don't know. I've been watching a lot of videos of people saying, how can you, I need to find the examples. Tell me you are this without telling me you are this. So, and then this could be anything. Tell me you are a vegetarian without telling me that you are a vegetarian, or something like that. So anyhow, this is popping in my mind because in regards of like what I'm doing, this could be a good challenge. Tell me you are dramatic without telling me that you are dramatic.
Well, there was one I saw, Julio, that was for like, tell me that you're a theater kid without saying you're a theater kid. And some of the responses were so cute. They were like, sorry, I can't. I have rehearsal. They were super cute.
Oh, I'm glad you. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, now I remember another one. Tell me that you're from LA without telling me that you're from. That pops up a lot, apparently. But yeah, I love watching those little videos. But that's a good one, Jen. All right, so good. I'm slowly bringing some elements already and shading. I'm checking the time. It's okay, we're half hour in. I still could dedicate maybe like 5 to 10 minutes. And just step back if you're not sitting down. And again, watch or assess or analyze your stage from an abstract point of view. Strip anything that is associated with narrative, figuration, or something that could be explained, and look at what you have in regards of space, arrangement, alignment, sizes, distance between objects, balance, unbalance, tension, proximity to edges. All those criteria could be applied to any abstract painting in the sense of like giving us opportunities to make decisions. So, okay, and then there are two cars right in the back. I'm not gonna do the cars, but I have a lot of like canopies, tree canopies. Those I think I'm gonna do. And then there's this vignette of the tree. I think that's also good. Am I gonna do the house? You know what? Yeah, I'm gonna do the house. There's another curve right here, and then I will do the structure because I think it's important conceptually to show that there is a house, and it doesn't have to be recognizable. But I think the idea is house, street, trash, and then the Christmas tree. And So I would say that when I was thinking for ideas before Christmas, one of the things that I had in the bag was to paint Christmas trees because they're so beautiful. They're so beautiful, and it's so fun to decorate. Number one, period. End of story. And but decorating a tree, it's just so cool. But unfortunately, I just couldn't find many references of paintings of Christmas trees. And I thought it would be perhaps too much of a challenge to just propose to paint a Christmas tree because without references and I don't know, I didn't feel 100% strong about it. I just couldn't find any impressionist paintings, post-impressionist, contemporary, and it's so interesting that um, yeah, I didn't find that. I don't know what's the reason why, but I finally didn't go for it. So when I was thinking about post Christmas, this just immediately came to mind. Just do a tree because the trees have been in my mind because the trees are changing finally in LA and they look beautiful. And we did crows, and it just seemed like it would be a natural way of bringing this subject. But I don't know, it didn't make the cut, obviously. But I'm glad it did now because I think from the painter's point of view, this could be a little bit less challenging than doing a Christmas tree, and visually it could give us potentially better results. Um, so here we go. And what I'm doing right now, I'm already shading. So I'm trying to, um, yeah, I'm trying to articulate or put on a scale um, the values of grays that go from darker to lighter. I use the side of the charcoal, and yeah, so that's what I'm trying to do. Um, I saw some options that I didn't know about, like trees, live. I'm talking about live trees, and one of them is to rent a tree from a nursery. I don't know if there is this service nearby or not, but you can actually rent a tree, and and then the nursery picks it up after you're done or the season is done. And there's also this notion um, that I was really happy to hear because uh, growing up, we Christmas trees was a modern tradition. We didn't have Christmas trees until later, um, because growing up, the tradition was around the Yule log. So that was more of the tradition in the house that I grew up, or with my family. And then things became modern, and then Santa showed up, which we didn't have Santas, but um, uh, yeah, and then it just became Santa. But before Santa and the Christmas tree, so we did the Yule log, a very, I would say, Germanic influenced celebration of winter. But anyhow, when the tree came up, and so of course everyone went bananas, and then I just remember having Christmas trees in the house, and then it was just beautiful. Uh, so oh, and then the nativity. The nativity was also a tradition. So Yule log and nativity was the thing for Christmas, and but not the Christmas tree. But then it just became Christmas tree. But one of the things in I don't know if it's yeah, I would say in Catholic tradition, because we were talking this morning with someone who is Jewish, and then she was sad that her parents didn't bring tree decorations when she was growing up, and she loved the assignment and she wanted to do it. And I was thinking about how in contemporary times there's a little bit more of this interfaith um, progressive movement in which traditions are not segregated, and I kind of like that, and I think that should be the case because some people just bring in whatever tradition or mostly in regards of food, but in other stuff. So I think this interfaith stuff sounds really cool. Um, and what did I wanted to say that? Oh yeah, so growing up, one of the things, and I'm gonna put it on the chat, Jen, because I don't know the date. So this is the name. There's a specific day, I think in February, that the Catholic Church recommends that you can take the whatever Christmas or holiday decorations, you can take them down, and it's La Candelaria. That's the day, and I think
Oh,
it's
is it on? Oh, there's another thing. Sorry, I totally just interrupted you. On January 6th, and it's at the end of the walk of the three wise men, like the day that they found Jesus. Is that right? Anyway, there's a name for that. But I've totally interrupted you, and that's not the thing at all. Go ahead.
oh, that I don't know. I don't know how that plays out chronologically because um, yeah, that's also interesting. I don't know. Um, anyhow, so I know that in our house we didn't remove the decorations until February, and I love that.
Holy moly. Mine
Why? Because
would go nuts.
the twinkly lights and the colors, it's just so beautiful. Why do you want to take it down so early?
Yeah, no, totally. I think it's just, yeah. I love the lights. The lights are awesome, but I get sick of looking at the ornaments.
I
And
know.
we had a live tree for the first time
Cool.
ever. And it's odd because as a tree, I don't know, I guess it dies, which is terrible. It changes shape and it tends to move, and like the branches kind of sag a little bit more. So everything kind of shifts.
Oh wow.
Notice. I don't know. Maybe we did it wrong. I don't know. But
I think it just goes pretty quickly, I think.
it really does. Okay, we have a few things. And I want this too. Um, Kathy wants to hear more about the Yule log, and I love the story. So will you please talk about the Yule log?
Okay. Yeah.
And then Kathy said maybe the Epiphany is the name of what I was talking about, or Claire said the Posada.
Posada, yeah.
I don't know. I know of it as Little Christmas. But I
Yeah,
can't.
I mean, I just don't know the details, but that would be interesting actually if you can find out because I know that La Posada it's something that I've heard here that happens. I don't know if it's an alternative thing to the wise men or
Mhm.
a complementary thing to the wise men, but yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and
Yeah.
in regards of the Yule log, so the tradition, the my grandparents use that. So in Catalonia, I'm from Catalonia, which is a region in Spain. And in Catalonia, there is a very old tradition of singing a song during on Christmas Eve, um, using a anthropomorphic Yule log that looks it's a piece of log and they put eyes and you cover it in a blanket and the morning off, you put cookies and milk to the Yule log. It's really tiny. It has legs. It has a hat, a red hat. And this is essentially, this was my Santa growing up. And the thing is that during Christmas Eve, you sing a song and you get a stick. It's a little bit like blowing up the head of the snowman in Switzerland. So maybe Catalan people are a little nuts too. So what you do is that you sing a song because the way the Yule log provides gifts, it's from its behind. The Yule log poops gifts for us, for the kids. So you cover the Yule log with a blanket to give it some privacy, I guess. And then you sing the song. But the thing is that you hit the Yule log with the sticks. So a bunch of kids gather around, and then you sing the song and you follow the rhythm of the song, and then you hit the Yule log and you beg the Yule log to poop gifts for you. And then once the song is finished, you go to another room in the house and then you pray. And mind you, this is a non-religious ritual, because when they say pray, no one tells you exactly what to say. They just say, you know what, just pray. Pray for the Yule log to give you, for the Yule log to poop. So when you're praying, then an adult puts gifts under the blanket, and then you leave the room, and then someone pulls a blanket, and then all of a sudden all these gifts are by the Yule log. And so the tradition goes that you do this a few times, because the final poop is the big one. So when you start with the song first, you sing the song, you hit the poor log. I never liked hitting the log, by the way. I don't think I ever did. Did I do? I don't have memories of that, so probably my brain just like scraped it. But the first thing you get like candy, and usually it's chocolate wrapped with foil, gold coins and little champagne bottles. Now it's not appropriate, but you get like little wine or champagne bottles wrapped with foil that are chocolate. And then the next one, it's like small toys and things that are really tiny. And then I think it's like three or four. They make it like really long, but the final, it's like a bicycle or whatever, something big. And that's it. That was the tradition. There was no Santa and there was no Christmas tree. So sometimes I remember my grandfather um, would burn the log because there was no hitting. So he would burn the log and then he would put the gifts. This is amazing because I remember vividly, and I don't know why this happened, but he would put the gifts on top of the log in the chimney while the log was burning on a different part. It was the initial part of the burning of the log, so it wasn't the full fire, but there was smoke and a little flame, and then all of a sudden I would just show up, and then after praying, and there was chocolate on the log. So I actually, I literally just grabbed the chocolate from the burning, not from the burning side, but I remember so vividly. So and everyone, it's such a fun. Everyone, it's like excited. You get this adrenaline rush as a kid, and and it's literally called the pooping log. It's still done today, and more families are trying to keep the tradition. I just remember my first Santa, my uncle, who I hate. I'm sorry, we all have these uncles, but I never liked my uncle. He's the one who dressed as Santa, and it just didn't work for me. That Santa thing, and my uncle, it's like it just didn't. I don't have a good memory. I love Santa and stuff, but that came later. Um, Anyhow, so I think I'm ready for wash, and this looks like a mess, and I like that it looks like a mess. Um, and yeah, so okay. Um, no, this is true. And Jen, if you find images of the pooping log, and you can upload them, and then you'll see them. Yeah.
Totally.
I was making fun of the Swedes last week, and I just
right, exactly.
have closed my mouth.
We're all nuts.
Yeah.
Claire wants to know if you guys named the Yule log.
No, there wasn't. No, it was the Catalan name is Caga Tio, which translated means the pooping log, but that was it, Caga Tio. And then the song is really funny because it says, "Don't give me sardines or canned sardines. Don't give me." So the song goes about what you don't want as a gift, and one of the things was like canned sardines. Um, So yeah, it's just funny. And I think yeah, it's still happening. And so here's the yeah, and Wise Man is a big holiday, and that's possibly one of the reasons why the decorations are still up, at least in our tradition or in the Catholic tradition or whatever you want to call it. I wouldn't, yeah, whatever. I should say precisely, scratch all that. The tradition that I experienced when I was growing up, that's more appropriate. So because we were waiting for the wise men on the 6th, and every single, it's still today, every single town, no matter how small, could be a town of one person. I mean, I'm exaggerating, obviously. So you are looking forward to the Wise Man Day more than Christmas Day, just because that's uh, technically that is the day of the gifts. So the pooping log, you get gifts and maybe a big one, but the actual day of the gifts is the Wise Men, just because in the religious tradition, it's the day that they bring the gifts. Although I never understood why Christmas is before and then this is after, because it doesn't make sense. But anyhow, no one questioned that at the time. But that is actually the day, and that's why the decorations are longer up, just because you wait for and you put food for the camels, and you put cookies and in your loafers, and um, yeah, and milk so the camels can eat, and then there are big parades, and very actually there's been some progress in that sense, because when I was growing up, one of the wise men is black, and so there were no black people in town, so they had to paint someone's face black. So no one mentioned anything, but this doesn't happen anymore. But there's been some progress, thankfully. I think there's some still very controversial traditions in the Netherlands of people still wearing blackface, and some people are. It's still today. Um, but yeah, so now, and the latest controversy, and now everyone, because in Spain everyone's pretty progressive, I would say, it's when women became wise men. Some people were upset because it's a wise man, and why you want to mess up with that. But yeah, some women now just put on the whole dress, and yeah, they do the parade and their horses. It's really grand, and it's just really colorful. There's music, and that happens the eve of the wise men, and then you wake up and then you just get the gifts. So that was a big one. Okay, I'm gonna start like washing you guys, and but yeah, more of the interfaith. I think that's something that's really good. And Jen, you remember, 'cause I um, when we taught like younger artists, they would tell us that um, um, some of them that were Jewish, they would put Christmas trees up also, and it was, I never thought that would happen, but um, yeah, it was interesting and kind of cool, right?
Yeah, a lot of my friends growing up were Jewish, and some of them did that as well. Still had a Christmas tree.
Yeah, yeah. Anyhow, so wow, so a lot of talking, but I'm not super sad about what's going on. This is I'm happy about what's happening. So I just did a few shading elements. I'm so behind, but um, anyhow, so big brush, and I use green? Yeah, I'm just gonna bring a green. Usually encourage people to use neutrals, but I'm just gonna bring a green with this, and I have concrete, so I'm just gonna start with the concrete, but I'll use the sap green and see what happens. But Did you find any uses for? I know that Dina sent me an image of goats um, eating Christmas trees. Apparently, it's very healthy for them. It's a great dewormer. So some farmers welcome discarded Christmas trees, and then they just give them to their goats, which is really good.
So cool. Yeah. I know. I mean, it's weird. Like I said, this is our first year having a real one, and I felt kind of strange having an artificial one because that doesn't feel, very environmental. But then having this one, having a real one, I was like, wait, we just like cut down a tree for what? And then it dies so fast once it's cut down, and I don't know. What's the solution, Julio? You're my moral compass.
No.
You are. You are.
No.
What should we be doing? The log, probably.
Say that again?
We should be doing the Yule log, probably.
Oh no, I think people are trying like with I think these trees are farmed or something. No, I just don't. Yeah, I think it's. I mean, obviously, yeah, but with the plastic also, I have a plastic tree, and I know that I have to keep that plastic tree forever because if I dump the plastic tree, it's gonna be worse than.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, at least if someone composts this or whatever, but with a plastic tree, it's just, that's it. I'm just gonna take it to my grave.
Oh my gosh, I'll bury you with it, and that tree will outlast your body.
Right. There are other things because yeah, there are other things to consider because they're not environmentally a plastic Christmas tree. It's a big deal, you can. That's it. You can't get rid of it. But I don't know. I think I don't know. It would be interesting to find out exactly. But I know that they're farmed and whatever that exactly means. And what I did find, and I'll probably find the link, but I did find alternatives. I think the renting, because these trees are expensive when you go buy them. The live trees, um, they're expensive. And I wonder what the renting process is because I think the renting sounds good. You support a business, and then you don't, you support whatever, So I'll look at it next year because it's something that I didn't know about, and I think I think that's good. And also, it's very hard to change the tradition because we think of these things now, but these um, things were not part of making decisions a while ago. There was a tradition. You go pick up the tree, you just put it in your car, and then it's a family thing. And people have memories, and changing a tradition it's not easy. But I don't know. All right, so I'm just doing. I brought some green and sap green, which has a lot of yellow, and I'm doing darker to lighter, but I'm also using the rag to empty out some of the paint. I'm doing this a la Bob Ross, when he started like wiping and rubbing and stuff. So this is very Bob Ross kind of like style, and I was the other day I was looking at things about snow, tutorials and stuff online, and Bob Ross came up because he did a lot of Arctic paintings, and I didn't watch the show. I just watched a couple of minutes or a few minutes, but I did watch a show with his son, Bob Ross. Son hosted some of the shows. I had no idea. And there's this guy with reddish hair and mullets, and not as good as his dad, I have to say. Not as good. But yeah, he would just do the show. And not just once, but a few times. I think he just tried to continue the legacy or something, but he was not very good. Sorry, I have to say he was not very good. Um, is that mean? No, it's not mean. Bob Ross' son. Check it out, Jen. Um,
Okay.
it's totally hilarious and really fun. All right, so I'm just gonna also, I think, with the, what is it called? With the digital camera, it's just so bad because we think like it's good because it's crisp, but it just changes everything. It changes the color of the shadows. It just makes things weird. So I can't. I'm not a very um, a fan of digital stuff. Um, so I'm gonna try to change the sky to a little bit bluer because today is a gorgeous day. The sky is super clear because of the rain, I guess, or something, or but it's really beautiful. And then because some of the things on the photo are shaded, the camera tries to bring some contrast or balance the contrast of light, and then it removes entirely the blue of the sky. So on a digital photo, you will never find the true colors because the cameras are very sophisticated, but they're not good at compensating the light and you know the light readers in the cameras. They're still go bonkers when they have to balance whatever lights coming in the little hole, and they're not great. They're not great, and they do all sorts of things, and they try some technology to balance things out without removing color, but it's still not great. We know this because we painted outside and we know the difference, and otherwise we would not know that difference. But so I'm washing, and I'm getting close to the first hour, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm not super concerned. I'm using some color and I'm being a little bit untidy, which is good. Don't be super exact with lines or anything. So I'm being totally untidy. I try to desaturate. Every time I use a color, I desaturate it. I bring either some gray or some browns because I don't want this to scream at this stage. And I'm just gonna bring some more. But yeah, I'm on the washing stage. Slow down. It's okay if we only do the sketch and the wash. It's not. It doesn't mean like we failed anything. Um, it's how many decisions we make and how we study this, and how we go about that really matters. The fact is that whatever happens on surface, and I'm talking about the surface, which I'm using paper, by the way. What happens on the surface, it's a result. And that automatically means that the actual juicy thing that means something is the decision making. So the result, it's a consequence. So in a way, it's secondary. I'm sorry, I'm philosophizing the creative process, but yeah, just try to see it more as a secondary. The problem with painting is that we reverse the roles. We think this is the important thing, and our thinking is secondary, and then we go nuts because it doesn't work out like that. It creates all kind of like issues, but and yeah. So I'm just bringing masses. So washing or staining, it's the act of or the process or the stage in which I use the mineral spirits with a little bit of paint, and I intend to prime the surface, seal the charcoal, and create masses of color. So it's not meant to be defining, exact, with hard edges and, God forbid, texture or details. Not at all. It's just a very foundational stage that involves a little bit of paint, but it's supposed to facilitate the transition between the drying stage and the wet stage. So naturally, my brushstrokes are quick, they're messy, they are not tidy. And the reason is because I know that I'll have to apply layers on top of this, and I'll be able to manipulate uh, stuff. So, oops, sorry, I just used a little bit. So that's blue, but I'm just going to use a little bit of the Payne's gray on the trash can. Okay, it's very cobalt blue, so I can't wait to use that color. And this is just a mess. So the trash is just really crazy. So I'm just going to block it out like that for now. And then there's a carton box. So I'll just bring some tones on the carton box. I recommend you guys to wash the entire thing, because any blank space will affect your decision making process. So just block the whole thing if you can. And the cars, am I going to do the cars? No, I said no. So no, I want to shame this neighbor. I'm not figuratively, obviously, I'm not going to knock on the door or anything, but I mean, it's just like not even 5 days. I don't know, but I understand. Listen, it's like inconvenient. That's why I love the first time I met someone who had a Christmas tree up for the whole year was here. I mean, here meaning like in this country, whatever. Kion's aunt, one of his aunts, she has a Christmas tree all year long. And the inner kid in me just like went bonkers. I just thought it was the coolest idea and so rebellious and so interesting. So I've never heard such a thing ever before. And then I was browsing social media, and I found these Christmas trees that Harold Lloyd, the actor, had, which they're so spectacular. And we put them in the studio folder, but maybe Jen, if you want to move them to this folder. And he had him, not only he had him for the entire year, but he had a room just for it. So that was the Christmas tree room. And I just think it's amazing. I mean, to give center stage to a decorative piece, the concept itself, I think it's super cool. And who knows how much of the decorating is really impacting our inner artist, because there's arranging stuff, designing stuff, making decisions. It's so good for our brains. So perhaps unconsciously decorating a tree as a kid or hanging the ornaments, who knows how much of a contributing factor it is to becoming an artist later. I think that and cooking are things that really contribute to a more creatively thinking person. I don't know, something I remember baking for the first time, and because that's what I was allowed to do, not the stove or boiling things. So the baking was baking was it. So I have fond memories, mixing things and timing things and putting things, and the tasting was fine. Was again thinking about result and process. I wasn't necessarily thinking of the tasting as the ultimate reward during the baking. I just love getting things dirty and mixing things and all that stuff. And I don't honestly, I don't remember if the cookies that I baked, the first cookies, were good or bad. I have no idea, but I do remember where I was, who I was with, and what I did before I tested them. So that tells you. I mean, obviously, that's only me, um, my experience. But yeah, I want to believe that's something similar to painting in the sense that the result, it's not really what I'll remember about this. It's the process. Just consider that, because sometimes we put too much importance to things that are not that important at this stage. What this looks like, is it recognizable? Is it proportionate? Is it this or that? We're not there yet. So I think this is moving forward okay. And I'm deciding, because there's so much and so many details. I'm deciding right now just to not rush it, because I feel I talked about how wonderful painting is because it's a slow art, and I think people are getting really nervous with anything that goes slowly. All right, let me just do this, which makes this even more of a unique, important, and precious practice. So I'll just bring more blue on the sky, and I'm still washing, and I'm fine with it. It's past the first hour and into the first the second hour, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm just washing because I think this is important, and I just want to make sure that I'm okay with this. It's better to have a stage that you feel content with than this is actually blue, and the leaves are actually blue. So I'm just gonna do this later. But they're actually blue. All right, so I think that's it. Yeah, all right. So I think that's it. I'm happy about the shadow. I mean, the shadow, the highlight of the sun. So I need to study where the highlights are, where the sun is. I think, yeah, I have an idea because they're right here. So it's behind. The sun is actually behind. And I have some highlights right here. I'm studying the light right now, but I'm going to move to first notes. So staining, always think of the foundational stage that transitions or helps us transition from dry to wet in a safe way, in which we use a solution of a lot of mineral spirits. You have to gauge if too much or too little. Drips are normal, but if it drips everywhere, it just means that perhaps you need to bring a little bit more paint. Don't use any medium, but the idea is to just block out a few big masses of color that will help us in the building of the details or the first notes later. But they will just prime the paper and or the painting surface, I should say, and seal the charcoal. So something very interesting that came up in our tutorial yesterday was a question about what happens when there's a lot of charcoal and then you wash it and then there's some really light So I think just concentrating more on line and putting less charcoal if your painting is very light can help you make sure that things don't become too dark. And the solution of the mineral spirits with paint, it also helps to seal whatever we have right now. So we should be able to put paint on top of this and create much lighter areas, whatever we want. But I'm not unhappy. I think that's good. It's still not quite recognizable if you don't have the image supporting this, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay. So I'm just gonna switch and move to first notes. And first thing, I'm changing the brush, and I'm just gonna use a medium brush, and I'm gonna use a couple of medium brushes. The old and hairy guy, and then something with a little bit more of the bristles being tight. Um, and by the way, in regards of, this is a testament of using better quality brushes. And so I have had this brush for a few months now inside of the jar with safflower oil. And I mean, it's a little bit bent, a little bit, but still it's quite pointy and really great for super hard edges. So just shows you that investing in a little bit better quality brushes, when you put them inside of the jar, you can just handle them with a little more roughness. But the idea right now is to just go over darker to lighter and trying to get closer to the color family. I wouldn't say matching yet. Studying the color, bringing some edges, creating some opacity. So that would be the idea. I'm going to pretend or imagine this image is black and white and trying to find the dark areas. All right, so I'm using medium instead of turpentine. And I'm just gonna go ahead and actually I prefer, and I think that's gonna be a good idea. I'm forget about darker to lighter in that sense. I wanna study the color of three elements. I would say four elements. Let's just keep it to three. The other day I was reading a podcast. I mean, reading a podcast, listening a podcast about presenting things, and it was very interesting. It was very helpful, and some experts in presentation, they recommended never to exceed number three, or three elements when you present, because the minute you put four, people receiving the information start to get really confused. And so I like this idea of simplifying things to three maximum. And if you need to bring more elements to your presentation, or when you present something, you should try to categorize them or group them together into a single category. So you can add a lot of things, but keep them to three or minimum. I don't know why I'm saying this, but anyhow, so the idea is that I want to concentrate on study three colors. I want to study the color of the tree trunk, although I think that's similar. I know that it's really far from what it is right now. I want to study also the evergreen, because it's already frosty and it's not super green. And I think this is going to be conceptually very important, because my disadvantage is that this tree is not tossed in a trash can or laying down, or you can see the tree trunk. It's planted on the sidewalk. So in order to make it look like it's discarded, I'll have to work a little bit harder to make the color different than lively. So there is already in the image a distinction between this faded, bleached, or blanched green, and the greens of the living trees behind. But I want to study it. I want to see what kind of green, or how can I get this green first. And the third one is going to be the blue of the trash can. So this is a very intense, it's the color accent. If you ask me, yeah, I would say it's a color accent along with green, but I want to study it. I want to see what kind of like super blue I can get with this. So I'm doing first notes, but I like to study colors, and that's why I'm going to bring this painting hack, which consists of a piece of cellophane, transparent, that I put over the image. And if you're working with a screen, you can do this by just putting some paint on your brush and then zooming um, zooming in the area that you want to test, and then just hovering the bristles on top of the screen to see if that's something that's similar. So um, yeah, I doubt that if you put this on top of the screen, it's gonna work, mostly because the image is lit. So if you put something on top of light, it's just gonna look darker. So I'm just gonna put green, um, the green. What's the name of this green? I just totally blank. Uh, Sap green. Um, Anyhow, and then obviously this is very saturated. Again, I just with a demonstration yesterday, I tried to start with one single tone that seems very much part of the family. I'm gonna bring some gray, and amazingly, this is why it's so important to study the color. I thought this was very desaturated, but it's still extremely colorful. So it just tells me that the actual green may be just a bunch of gray and barely any sap green mixed with it. Let me just check. So it's still highly pigmented. So to pull it back, to pull a color back, which means that we want to lower the saturation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring some of the opposite. And I think in this case, I'll use opposite temperature, a little bit of the burnt sienna, because I feel it's still way too green, way too green. Nailed it. And this was so helpful. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I'm gonna go crazy in 2021. Wait for it. So I get really excited and passionate about this because color, it's something that I'm still learning about. And I'm at the stage where I know that when I see a color, I think I know the color, but unless I study the color and I test it, I won't really know what that color really looks like. So for me, this approach consists of getting an area and really studying the composition of that color to really understand what I need to mix to make a color that's similar, and what are the things that I think they will make the color, but in fact they don't make the color. So I discovered that the path that I was going was way too pigmented, way too green, way too much yellow. And that kind of like I knew. So I put some gray to desaturate it to create this idea of blanched or faded. And I thought, okay, this will do it. But it was still very much pigmented. It's still a lot of color. So I brought some darker notes because the gray has a lot of white and it was getting too pale. So I had to bring Payne's gray. So I'm already involving 3 tones in the formula that I didn't even think of. The uh, sap green, the gray, and the Payne's gray. But as I put the Payne's gray and I mixed the color and I added it, the green was still too vibrant. So I knew then that I had to pull back the pigmentation of the green. And for that, gray and Payne's gray are not enough. I had to bring a little bit of the opposite temperature, a little bit of the burnt sienna. And the way you add an opposite color is you add it in very small amounts. So you're able to still maintain the green, but pull it back, meaning like not becoming too green or too pigmented. And that did it. And why is this good? Because now my mind understands that if I make a color and I put it there, I need to play with all these elements in order to create variations. If I wouldn't study the color, I'd break it down. Then I would just use green, maybe with white and Payne's gray, and it would be very flat or not developed enough or not elevated enough. So yeah, so that was my first color. So let me just kind of like apply it, and I'm just gonna apply the lighter areas with this color. It's so good. It's so good. And I'm so happy because right now I understand um, the structure of the color. And I should say at this stage that the color out of the tube is the raw material. We always kind of like mention that. It always, especially with realistic representations, you always have to process it 99.9% of the time. And by process means mixing it. Um, Using the color out of the tube and straight on the painting, it's equal to sacrilege. And again, become familiar with the traditional approach and then break it, because of course not every artist um, did this. You know, the Fauvists, the Impressionists probably used like more straight up color. Post Impressionists especially, um, they used like a straight up color. So what I'm saying is um, become familiar with these concepts, and then you can break those rules. But I think it's important to understand the fundament of these traditional approaches, so then it'll allow you to make better decisions in regards of how you want to use color. Because if you don't practice or yeah, become familiar with this, your decision vocabulary will be much more narrow and limited. You will not know as much why you want to use a specific palette and what it means to you. And so I always recommend to practice the traditional, or at least be familiar, so then you can break it later when you think, you know, you want to break it. So this green, I'm so happy. I would have never gotten this green. I'm really happy about it. And I'm gonna bring some burnt sienna, I'm sorry, ecru as a substitute of white, because I don't want to bring the titanium white because I think it's gonna make it too chalky. And before bringing the white, I'm just bringing a good substitute, the ecru. I'm not, this is first note, so I'm just creating mosaics. So I'm not gonna go too deep into texture or details, but what I'm doing is just creating little tiny mosaics. Yeah. And then when I do second notes later, I will go back to this tree and work more on the edges, on the darks, perhaps some texture added. But at this stage, what I'm doing is just creating a layer that has a little bit more opacity, study the color, blocking out. It's funny, I just added some green and I didn't add this burnt sienna. This will be interesting in your, when we share everyone's process. It will be interesting to see what happens, to analyze the color. And I noticed that it was way too green, way too green. I love painting trees because it allows me to actually study this very challenging color, green. It's not easy to work with, and especially green associated with plants, because we do all sorts of like weird things with it, if I can say that. all of us, myself included. Um, Anyhow, so Jen, were you able to find any uses for the tree? Anything about
For the discarded trees?
yeah, for the discarded I
No,
should
to look.
I'll send you. I'll see if I can find the link and I'll send it to you because yeah.
Cool.
All right, so I'm okay with the tree. I'm happy. It's a little bit more developed. I'm gonna study now the color of the tree trunk because I feel like those three elements. This sort of trinity, if I can use that word, if you allow me. It stands out in my composition, and I think conceptually it starts to gain strength. The idea that this tree trunk right here, it's not just a bare tree trunk, it means something. And I also feel like compositionally, it very nicely supports this triangular organization of the objects. Right, left, and then something behind that supports those two elements. So I feel like this is a really important part. So I'm just gonna go ahead and and in regards of like study the color, you don't have to have the cellophane and do it if you don't want to. But at some point, whether you've painted with us years or one day, at some point, you will have to create some sort of system that will allow you to test different color samples of the same family against what you're painting. Because just interpreting and translating will not be enough. So that's my kind of like a process or approach. At some point, I just wanted to get deeper into studying the color and then finding out, yeah, what it was made of or what kind of formula. I'm gonna put um, kind of like an explanation of how I study the color. I know that this is, maybe I should, let me see if I can, oh, I can't. It would be good to put it really close. I can't. I don't have the clamp. Next webinar, 2021. So I put the brown and it's the raw umber. It's too dark. I feel like there is pink in it, and that's something I was watching. Sarah Brocher's painting from Studio Time, and one of the feedbacks that I gave her is that the tree trunks were too dark, and they almost felt like it was a forest of burned trees with artificial foliage put on top of it. So tree trunks, be careful with tree trunks in regards of studying the color. Oh, well, this one is, I think this one is pretty good. Let me just see. I think this one's pretty good. It's a little bit lighter than I thought. Okay, so I think pink and brown. I mean, an umber. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Pink and umber. Wow. All right. So, okay. So I studied the color, and on a regular decision, color decision, I would probably say I would have chosen raw umber and a little bit of white. And that would have just given me something so neutral and flat that it would have been, it would not have been really elevated. Or different, or I just think like this allows me to study possible combinations of color. And in regards of mixing colors, I always say that to go from point A to point B, there's not just one path. We can achieve a color by bringing different tones. So because I have the pink and the raw umber, I think the combination worked. But if I didn't have the pink, I would have used maybe the ecru and the burnt sienna, and I could have created a sort of like a salmon color, and that could have worked also. So there's never one single straight line in regards of color mixing that goes from point A to point B. We don't have to memorize anything. That's my point. But yeah, we have to explore and experiment, and that's for sure. Right, I'm gonna bring the newer newer brush, because I just want to create a couple of darker strokes, even though this is first notes. And I think it's going to be all first notes on this assignment, or on this webinar for this. It's going to be all first notes. I anticipate that what I'm going to do for the next half an hour, it'll be all first note process, which is not a first notes decisions, which is not a bad thing, just because it's just going to give us an opportunity to find out what concentrating exclusively on first notes can achieve. Because we always squeeze in second notes and stuff like that. But another thing that I feel like it's important in regards of painting a photographed scene, and specifically painting this one. Perhaps this will be only a first notes painting. And the reason is because what I like to do when I work off of a photograph, I like to tweak certain things, because it's over time, I've been able to identify when a scene is being painted off of a photograph and when it's been painting from life. And at first, I just had no idea. I just thought that it was nonsense, because to me, it looked exactly the same. But after painting scenes outside and knowing how the light changes, then I realized that a painting that looks extremely developed with a very specific light direction, it's 100% a painting from a photograph. So I have some lines right here, some spots that are the line percolating through the tree. If I put way too much detail on these spots right now, or during this session, and I paint them, too much, the painting will look like it's been done off of a photograph. So I don't think that happens with any of the images that we put online on the portfolio. But if you have something that feels more natural, in the sense of like some highlights or something like that, it's not cloudy. It is cloudy. I'm sorry, it's not cloudy. You have spots of light. You have a very strong light direction. Perhaps it's not a bad idea not to overwork certain areas that have a very clear light direction, to avoid the painting becoming too, what would be the word? Too photographic, or trying to be trying too much to be photographic. So that's how I will put it. So definitely this will be, as I'm deciding right now, I don't know what's gonna happen, a first notes kind of painting, just because I don't want the spots of light to become overworked, so it looks very static and lifeless. I can totally see when a painting is off of a photograph right now. The shadows are very gray. They're not colorful, for example. The highlights that are very specific in shape or the edge, it's way too overworked. There's no way that someone can look at that light and just make it so perfect. So anyhow, I'm gonna study now the blue. I don't know if what I said makes any, and the first thing I'm noticing is that it's pretty darn dark. So that's a really dark blue. And it's plastic. So I feel that the Prussian blue, which it's, in my opinion, one of the most, or a really superior blue for everything, this will not work because it's an artificial, it's plastic. So I think I'm just gonna go for cobalt blue. And I think the cobalt blue, I don't even know if the cobalt blue will work, you guys. So I just gonna put cerulean. I think it's gonna be cerulean. That's it. Not even cobalt. Cerulean blue. Let's give it a try. So cerulean blue. Oh, that's very light. Okay, maybe not. See, that's why this is so good. Okay, cerulean plus cobalt. Oh yeah, got it. Okay, perfect. I would have never been able to come up with this combination. First, I thought, well, my first thought, it cannot be Prussian blue because that has some aqua in it and it's just not gonna work. And I thought then cobalt blue because it's pretty blue. And then I just saw the cerulean in the bag and I thought maybe cerulean, it's too light. So even combining those two didn't give me that color, and I had to bring Payne's Gray to make it darker. So those are the three samples, and I have to find a different way to show you this. Maybe I'll just bring another camera out. I don't know how, but yeah. So after studying the color, I know right now that I have to use a combination of two blues plus Payne's Gray. And again, my invitation is for you guys to practice and explore in a traditional way, meaning try to find a color that, I wouldn't use the word matching, but it's within the same family. And then you can always break that up and then find your, oops, sorry, your own tone, or your own rule, or using a criteria, or your favorite tones, or like Dina, that she uses the Zorn palette, which is excellent, and we still have to do something about the Zorn palette, and we haven't. All right, so this is, it looks really weird compared to the image because there's a little bit of reflection, but it's first notes. So what I'm doing right now is essentially, yeah, just adding mosaic-like pieces. And then there's a blue one. Yeah, and I mean, if you drive by or walk your dogs, or you're gonna see lots of cardboard boxes on top of like Christmas trees. Hey, listen, Jen, Christmas trees on the street is better than mattresses, abandoned mattresses. So don't feel bad because I just can't.
I was thinking the same thing, how people leave furniture out constantly. And that's a service too. Like you can call your trash pickup and just schedule a pickup for essentially discarded furniture. But people don't. They just put it out there. Yeah, and mattresses are.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. I mean, it's just so stupid. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if anyone has done it. But yeah, just call someone and they just pick it up for free, right? But just hauling that dead weight from the bedroom to the street. I mean,
I know.
Every time I see it, it's like, oh my gosh. I mean, seriously. And then having your, I'm sorry, this is personal, but having your neighbors see your mattress in the
talk about airing your, yeah, seriously, talk about airing your like dirty laundry. It's worse.
I'm mortified, seriously. But hey, listen, yeah, we're a different species.
Seriously.
Oh, I guess. But I don't know what I was saying this or how. But yeah, I'm just gonna I'm applying I'm not gonna study that gray because they're the bins of the, but I think I should study that gray. Anyhow, I won't. I'm putting black on the dark beans, and I have to be careful because anything that seems black on a photograph, be careful because it may immediately seem like, okay, this is pure black, and I'm putting black. The black from out of the tube is extremely, extremely dark. And the way the printers work, you may get some colors that are very bright because they're used like chemical um, dyes or ink. And some of the colors on the printing, it may be really bright and impossible to match with organic oil colors. But with black, it's very hard to create black, or the black that it's in a photocopy. There's a protective thing after the printer sprays or whatever they do with the toner. Then there's a final process in which the sheet almost gets like a treatment on top, and there's a sheen. So that black that may look black to you, it's not really pure black. And the pigment from the tube, it's so concentrated from the Payne's gray or that it would be an overkill. So careful with anything black. If anything, I would even transform it or soften it and bring a little bit more gray. So alter that black just because out of the tube, I'm afraid it's just going to be too dark. That's my opinion and based on my experience. I'm bringing some cardboard color just with ecru. I love painting garbage. It just seems very, I don't know, liberating almost. Everything has been so pretty and dainty, and this mess, it just feels nice. I don't know. I'm not gonna psychoanalyze that too much, but um, yeah, it feels kind of nice to do something like this. And then this is not white. This box has color, so I'm just not gonna overthink it because, again, as I said before, I'm gonna study three colors, and the three, sticking with the idea of three elements for clarity, was the blue, the green, and the brown. This could be grouped together with the rest of the bins. So obviously I see lavender, I see pink, I see purple. I see a lot of like colors, but I'm not going to go into detail with that because all I wanted, yeah. Oh, uh, speaking of the words all I wanted, which reminds me of the Mariah Carey. I was thinking of doing a little bit of an art statement for this webinar. And Last Christmas came to mind because of the song Last Christmas. And then I just went and I checked the lyrics. And it's such a depressing Christmas song. I mean, I don't know about you, but I have not heard this song, not only this year, I haven't heard it once, but I don't even remember when was the last time I heard Last Christmas by Wham. Jen, what's your experience? Do you think that it's the same thing? Do you think like
I hear it every single day.
you do?
I do. And I hear multiple versions of it. I think it's one of the best. I love it as a Christmas song. I mean it is. It's so
It's
sad.
beautiful.
But George Michael has got such a beautiful or had
Yeah.
yeah. Um his voice is so magical.
I'm so happy you mentioned this because maybe I'm just not tuning in the right uh, the right station. But I haven't heard it. But and then I always loved it. I remember crying every time
Yeah.
that I would hear this song when it came out. I think it was the '90s. It was so touching. But now I just read the lyrics like today, 2020. I just put one paragraph, but it's pretty hardcore.
It is. Yeah.
It's really heartbreaking. It's very sad. And it talks about distancing, by the way. There's one part of the song that talks about distancing. It's just like really
A
sad.
lot of Wham's songs are super sad, beautiful, and really heartbreaking. Yeah, so many Christmas songs too. are
Say
so
that again?
sad. So many Christmas songs
Oh,
are
oh,
just
sad.
devastating. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like this year it just feels different to hear, to actually think of lyrics.
Yeah.
Because, it just happens with every song. But when you go through something or something's happening, songs take a different meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I feel like when I read the lyrics again, I was like, oh my gosh, it's just like it's
Yeah.
so
That happened for
sad.
me. Yeah. That happened for me for the song Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. That song always gets me, just because you have no idea what's going to happen, every year, and whether this is your last Christmas with someone, and and that song always gets me when it says, like, through the years we all will be together if the fates allow. It's like, oh God, like until then we'll have to muddle through somehow. And then, in this year it's just so sad. None of I don't know. I don't know many people that were able to spend time with their loved one.
Wow, yeah, yeah.
That
Wow.
song just hit hard. But
Yeah.
yeah, dang man, Christmas music.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, that's yeah, I wonder what other people will say later. But yeah, I think that's gonna be interesting. Maybe because yeah, it's just interesting. Interesting to reflect on this. And definitely a different take, I would say, on Christmas songs, especially during this specific holiday. For sure. I never think of it. But yeah. Um, Well, I just think I needed to do a final color test, you guys. I'm not done with color testing, and I just wanna kind of like test the concrete and then find out exactly what it's made of. Because I feel like I need to ground what I've done so far, and I want to study that color. It's because we've done streetscapes before in which we painted like views of houses and pavement and stuff, and I've always resourced to gray and paints gray and white, but I just feel like this color is different. This color is different, and okay, I just put gray, and it's so bright. I mean, it's the value. Remember, when I mix colors, these are my two criterias. First, I check the value and see how close it is value wise. And then I can spend time moving the needle in regards of temperature. If I don't categorize or organize or bring this structure to color mixing, I completely lose control because I start picking up colors from everywhere and then gambling, thinking, well, this will do it, this will do it. But if I do this two-step process, first checking how light and dark the color is, and once I have that, then I can move the needle within it and see if I can make it dark. I mean, I can make it warmer or colder. Then I have a better chance not only to get something that is within the same family, but of understanding the structure of that color. So I just gray alone didn't do it. So Payne's Gray for sure. And then I'm just gonna bring some pink and see if that does it. More pink. Or I should say, rather, salmon rose, which is the name of the color that a little bit darker. So because I brought that salmon rose and that color has a lot of white, I missed the value, or I changed the value. I think that, yeah, no, I think I'm afraid. I'm not afraid because I love that color. I need to bring in alizarin crimson, you guys. Alizarin crimson is becoming more and more a very important color um, in our palette. It's much, much more superior to cadmium red. These are discoveries that would have never um, encountered, sorry, if we didn't experience the lockdown. Oh, that's it. It does it. Okay, so it's such a beautiful color. So I know that this pavement um, has a bunch of colors, but one of them is alizarin crimson. And I'm so happy that that's part of the color, because otherwise I would have kept this gray. But now having this green tones and some purple tones at the bottom, it's just going to have a really interesting um, combination and palette. All right, so I can switch now to the old hairy guy. And let me see if I have time to just do this before. We still have time, just like until 5 minutes after. And I said, what did I say? Payne's Gray for sure. Pink or salmon rose, and alizarin crimson. Oh, it's gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous, and also unusual, and I would not have thought of it. So I'm so happy that that studying of the color happened. And it's a little bit more neutral down here, but I don't care. I'm just gonna use this purpley note. It's so beautiful. Such a great color. And I'll bring it closer to the trash cans here. It just becomes a little lighter. And blocking out, remember, this is first notes. It's still first notes. And what I'm doing is creating more of a mosaic-like. So zero details. My painting has no details whatsoever in regards of like texture or anything like that. And I'm bringing some pink and mixed with, yeah, whoopsie. Okay, good. All right, so yeah, I think that's gonna be it. And this pocket right here, there's a lot of pink here, so I'm not gonna study the pocket. I'm just gonna do a quick blocking here, because again, I don't want this to be too overworked. I said that to avoid making things way too detailed and making the painting look too static. Yes, static. I think that's the word, right? Static. I'm not gonna overwork that area. So it feels a little bit more spontaneous and less overworked. So more, what would be the word? Transitory transitory. I think that I could say that. Uh, yeah, some darker color. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I'm just going one step at a time. So I just work, and this makes me happy just because I've been working on things that feel closer to the viewer. So in a way, it just helps me make sense of the different visual planes, the perspective, the angles, the diagonals. So I'm happy that I worked on these areas first, and then I'll just decide what to do on the background right here. So this feels a little bit more gray. So I'm just gonna bring some of the gray. It's funny. So usually with when we send a uh, email with a webinar description, sometimes we get these wonderful spontaneous replies of people saying, oh my God, this is such a great idea. I love it, blah, blah, blah. This one, this webinar, this theme got a lot of replies. So some people reply back and they said, oh, this is such a great idea, or it's interesting. I mean, the majority of the themes don't get any reply at all, or we don't get any mentions. And so it's very infrequent that we get someone commenting. But with this, maybe it just touched a nerve, or whatever that expression is, on people. I'm just bringing right now some tones on the background, and this I will make a little bit looser because we talk about composition, right? We just say composition, arrangement, but composition, it's not only limited to shapes and space. Composition could be applied to other criteria. And for example, brushstroke composition is a thing. And I'm going to try to define it in this particular example. I could arrange looser brushstrokes that are less developed in one specific area of the painting, and more concrete and smaller in size brushstrokes in a different area. The fact that I'm bringing an intention or a criteria in which area has the looser ones and which one has the more specific ones, since it has to do with arranging, it has to do with composition. So we don't finish composition when we're done with the sketch. Composition can continue and does continue apply to other elements. So I'm using brushstroke composition right now to intentionally situate some looser, more underdeveloped brushstrokes on a plane that's further away from the subject, or the subject of the painting. So not every single part of the painting that we do has to have the same brushstroke composition. This reminds me in a way, oh my gosh, I'm going to bring up a terrible artist, but I'll just mention his name anyhow. Thomas Kinkade. I think that's how you pronounce it. Thomas Kinkade, he passed away recently. I mean, recently, maybe just like 4 years ago or something like that, or 3 years ago. He was a very successful, very wealthy painter, very commercially successful, that was known for extremely decorative paintings of landscapes and houses with light inside. Think of the most like um, kitsch or images of a landscape, you know, mostly, I wouldn't say not mostly, but almost like entirely appealing to uh, people of Christian faith, because he was extremely religious, and in his themes, the whole idea of like divinity and God, it was like, you know, so obviously um, he was not part of the contemporary art scene by any means, but he didn't care because I think he just made a lot of money. I mentioned this because on his paintings, and Jen, if you want, you can try to find a painting of a Christmas tree by Thomas Kincaid. I'm pretty sure he has. I should have checked. If not, there are a lot of images of winter landscapes and extreme.
Billionaire.
I'm sorry?
He was a billionaire.
Billionaire.
Wow, joke's
Yeah.
on us, friend.
Wow. Listen, I as much as he was hated, I have a lot of respect for that because wow,
Yeah.
amazing. There's, I have to say this, there's one painting of him that I like, one only, and I think it's a painting of a stick of butter.
Ooh, I'll try to find it.
It's gorgeous. The rest is not, but this one is absolutely stunning. That's it. That's yeah. And he barely did still lifes, by the way. Oh my gosh, I'm talking all this, not even thinking that maybe you guys or some of the people listening not only love him but have one at home. Um, I'm sorry, this was not. I didn't try to be offensive, but I'm just saying this because, in regards of like brushstroke orientation, in his paintings, which are highly predictable in the sense of like color and composition, you would not find brushstroke composition whatsoever. Everything in the painting is painted with the same amount of detail, no matter if it's a close up or further away. There's absolutely no difference in the style of the brushstroke. There's a total absence of brushstroke composition. And if you find something, we can just later go over it and um, analyze it, or try to bring a visual example and understand what happens when you use that, which I do not recommend, by the way. I just feel like um, brushstroke composition is interesting, it's helpful, it's dynamic, it's intentional, it brings character to your painting. It just creates energy in your painting. Yeah. So all right, so I think I'm just gonna pause here. This is obviously far from being quote unquote finished, um, and I feel like I need to go on second notes and do detail on the three elements, but I'm not unhappy. I'm not unhappy. So I'm just gonna take a picture and then upload it so you can see a close up, and I'll just I need to work on this because I actually love this painting a lot, and I think it's going to be a good way to spend this lull time between Christmas and New Year's, which feels always like I love this week. I love the days between Christmas and New Year's. There's something about this pause that I enjoy savoring. Right? Yeah. Anyhow, so this is what's going to happen. We're gonna take a 10-minute break. We're gonna reconvene at 1:15, and during this time, I we suggest you stretch because our body and our muscles get charged with holding um, the arm up and stuff like that. Stretch, drink water because we forget to drink. We are so engaged. Um, use sorry, I just got a text. Use the restroom. I feel like a kindergarten teacher, but anyhow, so yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. And at 1:15, we'll reconvene, we'll open the microphones, and then please upload whatever you have. I don't care if it's one stick figure and that's it. Um, yeah, anything you may have, because it's gonna help us to sort of like bring examples. And what I'll do is give feedback in the sense that I hope I provide points that you can follow to continue your work and develop it a little bit further. But I understand that all the work will be a work in progress, and it doesn't matter if it's just charcoal or a wash or you have something more accomplished, but it's not mandatory, by the way. But if you can upload it, then we can just have a conversation and see how to take it from there. All right, I'll see you at 1:15. And hi everyone, and welcome back, and thanks for, oh my gosh, I think I had the microphone on. Thanks so much for, I was just like having so much fun watching the paintings. So what I'll do is you guys, yeah, you can unmute yourselves. Perfect. I'm going to share the screen. And I have to apologize because it wasn't a stick of butter. It was a toilet paper. Thomas Kincaid.
I couldn't find it, so that makes sense. Oh, yeah.
Right. No, this is
finding that mound. Yeah.
And I was thinking of the toilet paper, but that was by a French artist. I forgot the name, but yeah, it wasn't Thomas Kincaid. So I don't know why I thought it was him, but this is not Thomas Kincaid. This is a French painter, and this is the best Thomas Kincaid ever, a toilet paper roll. And I think he did it for a good cause, actually. I think it was a collaboration with somebody. But it's just insane and amazing that there's a toilet paper roll by Thomas Kincaid, which is quite amazing, because this is your typical Thomas Kincaid. This is it. Thanks for finding some with a Christmas tree, but yeah, a Christmas tree and stuff on the roof. But this is your quintessential Thomas Kincaid painting, which has absolutely no brushstroke composition whatsoever. Every single thing, it's painted with the same amount of detail. And Jen, is this also a Thomas Kincaid painting?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
It's bananas. It's totally bananas. But yeah, you can see the seal in the upper right corner.
Oh my gosh, you're right. Wow. Okay, this one is...
It looks like a Coca-Cola ad or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty, I mean, that's amazing. I mean, that's pretty crazy. But yeah, and thanks. I love Bob Ross, son. Yeah, I think that's amazing. Thanks for this image. And Steve Ross. Oh, I watched this episode. He's so bad, poor thing, but it's so good. It's so good. Anyhow, thanks for putting it. Is it okay, no, never mind. The link is just an article about his son, right?
Yes, the link is an article, but in the other one of the two of them, there's, I think, video within that one.
Okay, well, I recommend you guys watch the video with, because it's really cool, actually. It's really cool. And he's very sweet. His dad's very sweet. And this is the Cagatio. Yeah, this is the typical Yule log, what it looks like. This is the Christmas, I mean the Santa of Catalonia. It only happens in that region. It's not, it doesn't happen anywhere else. But thanks for the links. And this is it with a blanket. And you sing the song, and it's pretty hardcore. And I should bring some videos. I'll post them later. But yeah, and you can find this in every single Christmas market in the region. Um, I my parents told me that this year they closed a bunch because of COVID, and there are no Christmas markets. But the Christmas market, it's also a very I would say it's a very European tradition because you can yeah, I think it's everywhere in Europe, in every city and every town. I've been to Christmas markets in Italy and in France and in the UK, and it's wonderful because mostly they sell food and sweets. So that's what, and then decorations for the tree and stuff. But this is what it looks like. It's not very big. It's really tiny. And this, Jen, what is this? Is that posadas?
So this is, oh gosh, now I'm trying to remember. I think it's for the Candelaria.
Candelaria. Oh
I think
yeah.
so.
Okay.
They dress up dolls.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And then there's a link in there describing, oh, so it's February 2nd. It's the same
Okay.
day as Groundhog Day. And it's the very center of winter. Does that make sense?
Oh
It's
yeah.
equal time of, yeah.
Okay.
It's the very middle of winter.
Wow. Cool. Well, thanks for that date because I know that that's something that my mom always says, it's not like Candelaria yet, so I'm not taking anything down. Because she puts things outside of the house and stuff. So I
Right.
knew it was February, but I thought it was even later, but um, February 2nd.
As it, evidently, yeah, in Mexico, they celebrate it February 2nd. Maybe it's different in Spain.
I
But yeah,
don't I don't recall any sort of like, but I'll just leave, I'll look into it. But that's kind of like a day that people mark. But I don't. I'm gonna find out exactly. I'm gonna ask my mom actually
yeah,
and see if there's any offering or celebration or something like that. But I know that it's a day when you're taking down the decorations. But thanks for posting that and the link. I'll check it out.
sure.
And uh, this
That's a
is.
Steve. Yeah,
Oh, really?
that's Steve. I know because
That's
it
pretty
was
good.
so bad. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
that was the only one I could find. Maybe
Well,
it's appropriated. I don't know.
yeah, it is. Thanks. And you know what? It's amazing. Yeah, because if you guys watch the episode, um, I mean, it's not as strong as his dad, but this is pretty awesome. Yeah, this is yeah. Thanks, Jen. Yeah, we,
Sure.
we like Steve. um, and I am just so
Oh, okay. So that is the list of things you can do with your discarded tree. And I
okay.
posted my favorite, which was create a bird sanctuary.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that cute? I mean,
That is
the
cute.
picture doesn't match what my favorite was,
Yeah.
but that picture was in the article.
Right. Awesome. Well, thanks so much. Yeah, I think, wait. Oh, really? Coated with peanut butter? Wait a second.
No, that's like a Julio dream.
Wow. Interesting.
Wouldn't that be cute?
Yeah, very interesting. I think that's super cute. Yeah. I know that in that list there are a lot of like things that I had no idea about. So um thanks for uh yeah, uploading it. I'm gonna check it out. And so I don't think Hania is here with us today, right? So I'm gonna go to
No.
Lois. Are you here?
I am. Hi, guys.
Yay!
Hi.
Hi, love. Hey, look at this amazing hair.
I know we got a new hair dryer. The girls got this fancy hair dryer.
Wow.
And I tried it out today and I was waiting to show it off. What do you think?
I think it's amazing. It looks incredible.
We
My
can't
gosh.
see your hair. I can't see you.
My video on?
Yeah, if you just change it, Claire, to gallery, she'll
Oh, right.
I have to see my hair.
It's cute. It's so long.
It's amazing.
It's some magic hair dryer.
Oh, yeah, cute.
Yeah, it looks incredible.
You look like a Charlie's Angel.
Yeah, it's got some doing some kind of thing here.
Wow, amazing. I'm jealous. You have a lot of hair. It's incredible.
You have to get this thing.
Lois, I was so happy when you joined, and this is so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's simple. It combines a little bit of a Giorgio Morandi aesthetics because it's calm and kind of like neutral and simple. And then I love the off-center, which is brilliant. Composition, it's fantastic. The light is incredible. The texture, it's just phenomenal. I think it's just exquisite and precious and symbolic. And it contains two of my favorite things in regards of like concept, or I should say a strong concept and a strong execution. So to me, that is the best pairing, because sometimes, we talked yesterday about paintings that are strong in narrative, but not as strong in execution. And this feels like super strong in execution and also really beautiful in regards of the concept. I'm so happy you painted it. It's exquisite. It's phenomenal.
I was writing we don't do a Christmas tree kind of for this reason.
Right.
And then, also my husband's Jewish, was raised Jewish, and I was raised Catholic, and we're both atheists. And so we didn't really know what to do. So we actually created our own holiday. It's called Be Happy Day. And it's December 28th, and it has presents, and the Santa character is our dog that we had before we had kids. And we make up a story, and it's all about being creative, but it's all our own things. We just felt so false passing on these things to our children. But we didn't want them to not celebrate or have a holiday with all that fun stuff. So we put up lights and we do all that stuff, but we don't do a Christmas tree. And, but that's okay. I mean, I like to decorate outdoors or real Christmas trees or plant a tree, but it just does feel weird when they're just cut down trees and then they just end up in the garbage can like that. It's so weird. So it is about changing traditions. And I love that Catalonia log thing. That's amazing. Do you think that's where like piñatas came from a little bit too? Like it's got a, because
I would like to see that the connection between the
presents and candy.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so good.
That's something that I have no idea, but I'm pretty sure there's some sort of connection.
Yeah. Like I like celebrating everybody else's traditions and learning that stuff. And we just want to make our own.
I love that. And I hope that more and more people sort of like not incorporate, but what you do kind of like bring something different. I just think it's important because it just makes it better, learning and I don't know. I just, I think it's good. I'm glad I shared it, but yeah.
Yeah, this painting had more stuff in it, like in the front, but I decided to not put that in. I wanted it to be more lonely looking.
You picked this one right here, right?
Yeah, see all that stuff? I thought that kind of took away from it.
Yeah, let me just kind of like put it right next to it really quickly. And I think it's done. I mean, I'm not, but for...
Yeah, I come back after it dries to pull some darks and lights back out. Some nature movements so that it has a little more depth. But
if you had the time, I think the painting is exquisite and darling and fantastic. So
I've learned so much with composition, you guys, this year, and just like listening to you talk. And I make little thumbnail sketches and try different things before I go. I spend most of the time drawing on the sketchbook before I get to the canvas.
Very well done, because that's possibly the best way to actually study. without committing at all, and then
Yeah.
gives you an idea to see what it looks like with that format. So that's really
Yeah.
smart, actually.
I felt like at the beginning of the year, I was fixing so much. I was constantly fixing paintings instead of painting them.
Well, it's
You
just seems like-
guys, we've been painting for almost a year. This is so nuts. The last Christmas, I can't believe it.
I know, it's just totally bonkers. It's really nuts.
I'm
yeah.
so grateful for this. It's made my COVID this whole time. Really, we're friends for life. We are connected. We are all friends for life now, for
No,
real.
seriously. Yeah, I agree. And then, yeah, so in retrospect, I think looking back, and this was a very special session, I should say, because, you know, looking back, being the last one, I just, yeah, I was thinking of paintings that we've done and seeing paintings. And I invite you to go back to albums and stuff, because it's kind of like remarkable, our journey from
It is.
March until today. And you know, contains so many important moments in history, I would say, and at the same time, some fun stuff that we've done, like this, kind of like crazy.
I have one more weird thing to add before I take up all the time. So, did you guys get the notice that Dawn from Gilligan's Island died on your phone? Did you guys see that?
Oh, no, Don Isley?
Yes, who played Mary Ann?
Oh, no.
Gosh, no.
82 from COVID.
Oh,
Complications from COVID. But you guys, she had an estate sale maybe 2 years ago in the Valley. She was moving from her home, and I bought her paints, and I'm using her paints right now.
oh my God.
And I got that message. Isn't that weird?
Wow.
Wow, that's
Wow.
crazy.
Oh, I'll put a picture in the chat of
Yes.
the box, because I have her metal. She had like a travel metal box and some old paints and a few brushes, things. I've got a bunch of stuff from her. It's crazy.
Wow. And you
Weird.
used it today, just today?
Yeah.
Or you've been using
Well, I use it all the time. Like I added it to my collection, and I keep it's a great metal paint box, and that's what I'm keeping my paints in.
Wow. Wow.
Weird
That-
year.
Yeah, it just feels amazing, but also creepy in a way. It's kind of like, I mean, that's incredible. Yeah, yeah, thanks for sharing that. You know, it's just like every time I hear like someone that's kind of like passing from COVID, it just feels so surreal, and it's so
So surreal. Yeah.
so
It's
crazy.
so close yet so far, and it is weird.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that and your painting. And in that sense, I mean, I think the painting looks incredible. If you wanted to bring like some shadows, something that I like that you did is to give warmth to the background. I think that kind of like softens and sweetens also the scene. There's something really nice about that. Because I feel like this is so stark, but softening this, I think it makes sense. And I love that you brought some shadows underneath. Yeah, I think that's a good idea, because there's a little bit of light direction regardless, you know.
Yeah.
So I noticed that this shadow, and also on the front, I feel like it's interesting, but there's a sense of like the trash can being so narrow and small. I mean,
It's almost too narrow, right? Like it doesn't look like it actually would fit in.
Yeah, I mean, because this could be a good easy, if you were to work on it, and if you were contemplating this, but it would be an easy way to expand it on the right side, because it would make it a little bit more, I wouldn't say the word proportionate, because this seems also odd, but I feel like it feels like even narrower on your painting, so perhaps like a little bit more
So
considerate.
that actually looks like it's actually in it.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, it reads well. It doesn't become like a noise that affects the way I perceive the painting or enjoy the painting, rather. But I would consider sort of like moving that edge on the right side, that one that doesn't have the wheel as well developed, a little bit to the right. So then, you know, it would even enhance the combination of both. Because there's a narrative here. It's like a tree that's cut and tossed, and it's head first. So I think that's also an interesting, because there's a way, I mean, it's not even put next to it. There's to me, going like on a different layer, it's almost like angry. It's like, you know what? Tossed head first. It's pretty aggressive. It's not left like on the side or anything, which I think it's interesting, and it's unique and different about this painting. And so that's why this sort of like relationship between the tree and the bin, I would possibly consider, if you wanted to work on it, widen it a tad. So it even increases more that relationship and the fact that someone tossed it. And there's something also fun and funny about it, because nothing else fits in that bin. It's just like just the tree, which is hilarious. In a way, it's really funny. So yeah, that would be my observation. The rest is impeccable. I love what you did with the border as well. And notice also in the sense of like talking about the black on the painted, it's very dark. So it stands out, I would say, perhaps a bit too much from kind of like a traditional point of view, because there's something about the border that's reflective, and it kind of like becomes secondary with it against the darkness of the bin. But it just comes forward a lot.
Okay.
So yeah, those would be the notes that I would say.
Okay, thank you. Happy New Year, everybody.
Yay, yes. Yes, I can't wait for next year, honestly, everyone. Thanks, Lois. And yeah, I'm just gonna move to, move to the other painting. Oh my gosh, Sarah Jennings, this is spectacular. My goodness. Was this an image that we put, or was it something?
Yes, it's one in the folder.
Let me just check.
I think you just passed it. There it is.
Yeah. Wow. The painting looks better than the image, I have to say. Oh, sorry. Let me just bring it. 1 second. Yeah, I think you did an incredible job. It just looks so strong. And again, this also has this very strong sense, narrative wise, of like someone dumping it head first and having a tiny can and then this massive tree. But let's kind of like go over first. Compositionally, fantastic. I have to say, Sarah, you nailed this one. Compositionally.
It's not bleeding off the side anymore. Okay. Except the house is a little bit, but.
I'm sorry?
The house is a little bit.
But no, but you know, it's a different story, because it's just, yeah, it has to. And it's so strong. I mean, it's just, yeah, but it's off center. But it doesn't get pulled by the edge on the side, and it gives room on the side, on top, at the bottom, and it anchors everything. The tree, that image, because of where you put it, I think it's a very, very strong anchor to everything. Without looking at the photo, I love the texture work, the texture on the tree, the cascading and the gravity pulling the leaves or the branches down. That's fantastic. The banked trash can with a different reflective surface, the combination of both, and also the very subtle color palette on the green. Everything is so strong and so well executed. It's marvelous. It's fantastic. I think you did a fantastic job on the time that you had. I hope you didn't have many interruptions. This tells me that you didn't have many interruptions.
No, this actually, I worked a straight 2 hours, and you can probably tell when I'm not interrupted. It's really great.
I think it's just and it's very strong. And again, what I love is strong narrative and strong execution. But in addition to that, and I would say with yours and Lois, is also a very dramatic scene. It's just not a beautiful painting with an interesting concept. It's just really strong. And I love when painting does that, you know, that you could create something aesthetic, but then it's just almost like a punch in the gut, you know. It's like a cut tree that's dying upside down, you know, in a trash can. It's I love that. I mean, that the contrast between beauty and this rough, strong narrative. So a couple of notes. If I can go to the notes, I would say consider a couple of things. I love that you removed the fence. Clever, smart. You didn't have to. It would have been a nightmare. And I like how you edited things like the dog. And I think that's very smart and really good. So a couple of notes that I would say. On top of the roof, I feel like there's a reflective surface that creates a very interesting gradation. That goes
Yes.
from the corner of the upper side all the way to the bottom, almost following the same diagonal as the side of the front of the house. So
Okay.
I feel like the color here is very strong and it almost comes forward a lot. Similar to what I said to Lois in regards of the baseboard, that dark black, it comes forward a lot. So I would just tone it down and make it paler.
Okay.
Because it would push the house to the back. It would not
Yes.
distract from the actual tree because right now it doesn't compete, but there's not as much a sense of perspective.
Okay. I see what you're saying. I think that's true.
And another note that I would mention, I mean, I know that what you did on the sky, I think that works, but I feel, you know, there's a bit of interruption on this leg between the sky and the back. I would just continue the blue on the other side so it creates more perspective, perhaps.
Okay.
And yeah, I think that's what I would do. Yeah, in that sense. Maybe just this one right here. I like the highs and lows. I think that works.
Okay.
But perhaps just bring continuity on the other side of the tree leg. And yeah, I think that's what I would do. Something. And I love the fact that it seems, I don't know if it's a light inside of the house or inside of the window, or if it's just there's a mirror and there's a light reflecting.
Hmm.
But
Okay.
I don't know if you want to bring that in or not, because it looks like really pitch black inside
Mm-hmm.
of the house. So perhaps conceptually you don't want to, but I mean, you don't want to. It's interesting that it's pitch black, but it almost feels like the fact that there is this light, it means that there are people
Mm-hmm.
currently enjoying themselves inside of the house, which makes this scene even more dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
consider concept wise, if you wanted to bring something that makes the house being lit and with a light or something through the window, because I kind of like that aspect, the fact that it shows that there's someone in the house, warm and protected and sheltered, and while the tree is outside, it makes it more cruel almost.
Okay. I will work on that. And I wanted to add, there's a news clip that was on last night about the use of old trees. And I don't know if you all saw this, but to add to the list of cool things to do with your cut down tree, they were feeding it to goats. And it was a really cute piece. And frankly, I think they should use goats to clear the hillsides of the growth rather than worry about planting fire retardant vegetation. If you just put a few goats out there, it would probably help a lot. But
Yeah.
that's from living in the country. So I know that it works, and it's just a nice cycle of life. And speaking of that, I loved this cycle of life last uh, thing that we did because it just seemed to close the circle on 2020 for me. And I chose this image because the house reminds me of a lot of houses in New England and some houses in my neighborhood, and it looked very similar to some of the 1920s architecture that we have around here near Hollywood. So it really spoke to me.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for sharing that. I agree. I think we posted an image of the goats eating the. Let me see if I can find it. Someone, yeah. So
Yeah,
someone
there they
sent.
are.
Oh, and Darlene, you chose this image. I think that's fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, I was asking this. Apparently, not only it's good, but it's good for the goats. Um, it's a good dewormer for the goats, so it's healthy. It's a good green to eat
Wow.
for them. So that's a good usage for sure. But thanks for bringing it up, and thanks for the feedback. Yeah, that's
Well, I wanted to echo Lois's statement about helping us get through COVID. You and Jen have really helped us get through this year. I don't know what I would have done without working with Roofless Painters. I think I would have gone more crazy than I did. But I really appreciate you both, and Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everybody on the call.
Oh, yeah, you too.
Happy New Year, Sarah.
Thank you. Yeah, true, true. Thank you so much. Yeah. Oh, well, thanks. Thank you, Sarah, and thanks for this beautiful painting. And yeah, this is a very good way of closing the last week of 2020. Yeah. And oh my gosh, this is beautiful. Claire. Wow, so interesting. I love that you brought the space. To me, this is a really beautiful nocturnal scene. So it's more than just the tree. I feel like with the last two, although like with Sarah, I like that perspective of the street. But how beautiful that all the paintings are so different. You have a take on the space that happens at a different time of the day, which also kind of like adds. I mean, I'm gonna use the word cruelty here, but not in a mean way, or if I can say it in a complimentary way, just because it adds to that abandonment, left outside in the cold and in the darkness. So, and I love the fact that you brought more color on actually the tree, because there's a sense of everything being muted, but then the tree still has life. Or somehow, I think this tree doesn't feel dead, or it just feels alive actually. So I love the perspective. I like this path. It just creates a really big space. I love the color palette a lot. And let me just bring the image, and we can just go over like small details if you like. Any notes on songs or things that we said, Claire?
Well, the Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas is making me cry. It's funny. I looked up on the internet images, and I was going to do this one, and then you had it in your collection. But I will say this, what I struggled with the most was the bottom, the little cross. And part of it is because you said make a border around your painting. So I squished it in a little, and it ruined everything. Now I'm struggling with it. I painted over it a million times. I brought in a color I hadn't used, the burnt sienna, and now it's really standing out and I hate it. I should have stayed with the pink. So that's the part that I'm struggling with the most, is the base of the tree. The rest, I'm actually pretty happy with.
Okay.
I like it. I like the pink that I brought in. And
so I think I can help in a couple of ways if I can. I can totally see it. I can see because it's foreshortened, and I can see how or why you struggled. And so my suggestion would be, I feel like there is a sense of almost like an axis that runs through the core, even though the branches at the bottom are squished against the snow, obviously, and then these ones are upright. But I would even say, let me see if I can just do this. I would even say that there is an axis that kind of like runs through the core of the tree in this way. So I'm trying to make sense of the bottom compared to the top, because the challenge here is that it's foreshortened. So if I apply this to the painting, I would raise up let me see if I can. I would raise the bottom, I would raise it up, because I feel like it feels a little bit lower than the axis line. So I think to me that would do it, just raising it up a bit and also making it a little bit bigger, because I feel like the fact that it's lower and smaller feels almost like it's not integrated with the rest of the tree. It's not about the crisscrossing. It's not about the perspective. To me, it's more about two things, the location and the size. So I would make it bigger and raise it up a tad. And think of this as where the tip of the tree is. Look, if I just even doing it this way, if you allow me,
Yeah, do it.
I'm just gonna try to run a similar core line, and knowing that it's not in the center because it's tumbled. And
Oh, I see.
I would kind of like bring it a little bit higher,
Yeah.
and maybe a little bit bigger.
Okay.
And I think that will be make it integrated, and then you can bring the cast shadow to, or the point of contact, so it shows that it's touching the snow. So you bring more the space here. It's not as squeezed against the bottom edge, which starts to pull it down. It would just lift it a little bit, and I think that could help you. I don't know. What do you think?
I agree. Thank you so much. I knew you would help me with that. I have to say I love this image because for me this tree, it still has the lights on it, which were really hard to paint, but for me it was like, well, if I'm gonna die, I want to be in a pretty setting. It's like the tree decided, well, this is where I'm gonna go to sleep. And to me, that makes me cry because the other trees head first into the trash can, but this one was like, well, this is nice out here. I'll just go to sleep here. And it makes me cry because I'm thinking of all the people dying of COVID right now. And like to think that Don Wells died of COVID. It's like Marianne died of COVID. I'm just, anyway, I'm not going to die of COVID because I'm inside painting with you all. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just painting.
I mean, the links, what's beautiful also in, I think, in what we do is that we can establish, and I love when this happens, and you guys, we're very thankful that we have these post-session conversations, because without them, I don't think we would extract as much content and juice. But the fact that you bring your own perspective and story behind it, it's so illuminating for, like, for example, for me, when you mentioned about this, might as well die pretty or whatever. It's just, I love that. I think that's actually a positive message. But at the same time, yeah, there's that sense of lives, fallen lives, almost like that connection with, people that are now, falling dead, literally. I mean, and so, yeah, and this is unique in the sense that it still has the light. So obviously, I mean, there's something different here, and it's a different narrative. I think it's very interesting and complex, and I'm so happy you painted it. But yeah, and also on the image, you have something that doesn't help the resolution of the base. I'm jumping from trying to bring some content into specifics about the painting, but you have two rocks here.
Oh, I cut them out.
Good, yeah, because that doesn't,
like, those don't make sense to me.
Right. It just which, it's so interesting because at first I would say this is a totally studied image. Someone who is a professional photographer, they just brought this in and then they just added filters or whatever. But I don't know, these two rocks here that don't fit that plan. I don't know if I were organizing this scene, I don't think I would just put the rocks in there. So,
well, if the rocks weren't there, it would almost look like this tree fell over in the night, and that's why it has snow on the base. But with the rocks there, it looks not spontaneous.
Yeah, it's so, I mean, the more we think about it, the more stories that come up. And I love when that happens because, I mean, was it dumped? Was it vandalized? I mean, the light's still on, so we don't really know. So all these like mysterious like things that we could or they make me think of. And I think that always makes the painting subject much more interesting, because at first it's just like the tree on the floor, but it's so much more. It's so much more. And also, what I also like is the fact that there's light up here. There's something really interesting about the street light. And I don't know, just between all the darker elements and stuff, I think compositionally that kind of like helps to bring a spotlight on the snow. So I think you did a good job. I feel like the speckles on the background, these read like snowflakes falling, but these are sort of like hybrid between like stars and snowflakes. So I'm not sure if I feel like they're very precise. So perhaps if you want to thin them out or make them a little bit less.
I consider getting rid of all of those, because some of them, if you look at the photo, are actually spots on the lens, and they're not. So I was like, well, it's really pretty in a photo, but it's really hard to paint. So
Yes.
I don't know, I could just eliminate them.
I think consider it, because they get picked up by this. So this does not read like a string of lights, because they're very close to this. And by assimilation, I just feel like they're both the same. And there's a clear distinction between this kind of like warm light, very pale yellow, and then the transparency on the dots. So I think so. I think if you were contemplating already, maybe, if you want to, if not, get rid of them, because there's something really nice about what you did here. It just brings interest. So perhaps just softening them in a way. I love the light. Actually, this is better, much better than the photograph. This is almost like percolating through the railing. This is really, really beautiful,
Oh, thanks. I had to do it to make it look like stairs.
I think it just looks fantastic, much more interesting than the photograph, because it shows that there's almost like light going through, the light of the street lamp going through the railing somehow, and then creating that interrupted highlight against the vertical part of the step. So that works really well. There's something also, and this may be because of the photograph, but and I don't know if I would change it, because it's a structural thing, but I feel like the verticals on the buildings, they have a little bit of a sense of being skewed towards one side, which I kind of like, because they bring this tension on the path. And it may be just because the way you photograph it and you upload it, because it's hard to have everything perfectly aligned. But just see if that's something that you want to consider, because I feel like everything seems pretty vertical, and what that does, it makes the diagonal lines much more pronounced and less diluted. And also, I feel like the post of the street lamp, it's not only it's vertical, but it almost tilts towards the opening of the path. And in yours, it feels like the other way. So there's
so slant though. I'm not sure I'm gonna go back and fix it, but I see what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. I mean,
this is very small. It's 5x7, and
I think it's just
no wait.
Stunning.
Yeah, it's 5x7. I don't really feel like spending a lot of time on it. To me, it's like an end of the year postcard, and
beautiful.
I see what you're saying, and I thank you for that. I'm not going to fix it.
Wonderful. Thank you for painting such beautiful scene. It's beautiful. It's truly
and
beautiful.
I'm just going to say what Lois and Sarah said and what I already said, but thanks for the class and for keeping my sanity. I've been drinking out of my Bob Ross mug, and I just, honestly, I hope this continues, these classes. Between these classes and having a conversation with my sister Gwen, who's an artist, every week, I feel like it's really upped my game. And also Darlene and I powwow after a class. So it's fun to have a community,
Right. Yeah.
And we're bonded forever, Lois, Sarah, and
Hi, Darlene.
I love these paintings. I love the representation of all of them. I think they're really special. I just love them.
Yeah, I think so. I agree. I think they're unique. I think they're different. I think they're daring. I love the fact that there's something, I mean, that's personally for me, I love the fact that they're unapologetic in representing a scene. Because sometimes beauty could be so conditioning in choosing a subject that we may just strip things too much and not really represent or show things that poke a little bit. So being unapologetic without crossing the line, I feel it's healthy and it's good, and it just pushes the boundaries or the limits of beauty and what we understand that should be a proper pictorial representation, and brings something new and unusual and different. And you guys with these paintings, you did it. You know, it's a very strong, dramatic subject, but it's beautifully executed. And I think that that kind of like clash to me creates good energy. And
can I just say, I
yeah.
kind of like the Thomas Kincaid. I like the crazy colors. It just appeals to like the kitsch, you know, the kitsch mid-century modern lover in me. I'm not saying they're great, but I love them for what they are.
Yeah, and I have to say that these are like really extravagant ones. They're really out there, but there's some that could, you know, that I could see like how they have this aesthetic appeal, not just because they're like aesthetically beautiful, but more like what they make you feel, you know. I mean, and they are aesthetically beautiful. This, it's just beyond anything I have seen.
But okay, he used some paint right out of the tube. I'm gonna just say that.
Yes. Yeah.
I think he was smoking something.
Yeah, I was gonna say he popped some pills or did something. Because...
What is that blue? What is that?
This is just so over the top outrageous that it's just, I mean, it's amazing in that sense because there's so much going on and it's nuts.
After having to try and paint a Christmas tree or an evergreen, I have a lot more respect for Bob Ross. I'm going to go do that video because, right?
Oh, like any Bob Ross episode, you'll be completely sucked in and you won't be able to stop because it's just...
We should all do one. That would be fun. Like kind of a drinking game.
Have a squirrel to put on our shoulder while we paint. I have a squirrel outside. Squirrel.
The squirrel, yes.
Outside could join us.
Yeah. yeah, true. Oh my gosh, I love the session we did with Peapod, the little squirrel. That was really beautiful. But yeah, I mean, from the point of view of, for example, strictly from, if you strip like all this extra content and what it meant, strip the like Christian aspect out of it, if you will, if it's possible, and all that stuff. In regards of color palettes and certain elements, there's a really beautiful quality in certain aspects. Like for example, here, what stands out for me, it's the sky. So the sky, and it's nicely painted. But then the rest, it has this almost, I wouldn't say caricaturesque, but infantilized idea of a landscape. For me, so that's how I read it. So it's just, there's so much artifice and artificiality in it that it puts me off in that sense. But at the same time, I understand how this has so much appeal because it's precisely the fact that it takes you to a different world, that it makes you feel like,
we painted the exact opposite of this.
Yeah.
Look, there's no yellow snow. Everything's so perfect.
Yeah. No, it's good that we, go over this, because in every artist, I think we're gonna find things that are interesting. no question for me that this is a knockout of a painting. It's just super interesting in its rebelliousness.
Mhm.
So
You know when this was done?
I don't have the information.
Who did that? Who did that?
Thomas Kincaid. Yeah. Yeah, I'll find out exactly what the other, I think it's a piece of chalk or a pastel. The blue thing, it's a pastel.
Hmm.
But
Beautiful.
yeah, in that sense, I mean, he obviously knew how to paint. And this appeals to me, but I understand that he made paintings for an audience, and that was very good for him and gave him a lot of success and money and stuff. And I understand the appeal. You know, sometimes we talk down on commercialism because we think it's mainstream, but sometimes we need to stop and also analyze and think, okay, so what is that?
You know, he would do the prints. I saw some, I don't know, it was 60 Minutes or something. He would do the prints, and then he would do a little bit of paint strokes on top and sign it. And that's how they got more valuable.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
okay, yeah, no, okay.
That's
now
how he, I mean, he figured out how to make a lot of money.
Yeah,
Hmm.
no, it was he had definitely a following, and I think there were more like in anything that's successful in art, there were more things beyond the painting that made people also go for it. It wasn't just strictly his practice. There was other things like added to it, and he was able to build this clientele of collectors that they needed to have a Thomas Kincaid. They just needed to have it because you know it had to be part of the household to represent a certain thing, and that happens with any other artist, by the way. It's not just him, but yeah, I mean, good for him. He was heavily criticized by many people, but at the same time, he made billions of dollars. So
Interesting. Julio, can you talk about your painting a little bit and why you chose it?
Actually, before that, really quickly, just wanted to show the box that you uploaded with the paints.
Oh,
And yeah, I think you put like 2 photos, but yeah, wow.
So see, it's an old, it's a, the brand, it's the old packaging of, it's from Cincinnati, of a different, but it's old, it's all coming off.
Wow, it's pretty amazing.
But they still work. They're mostly still really, a lot of them were still really good.
And I now, thanks for uploading, because the paint box looks really, really cool and perfect for storing paint. Yeah, so
yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. But yeah, really, I'm just gonna go over, I think, oops, sorry, just 1 second. I'll just go over, it's here. Yeah. I just like took the picture of the neighbor, and it's not even fully developed, but I'll just work on it a little bit, especially the trash. I think it needs to be a little bit more formed, and it just feels like a wash, but not even first notes, but I'm happy with it. I think I'll just continue a little bit further without overworking it, because to me, I think this idea of like the light showing, I'll be very careful not to make it super, super overworked. Kind of like what you did, Lois, and also, yeah, so a little bit looser, and then, yeah, but with a little bit more texture, obviously.
I just like the idea of the whole of it trash. I mean, they really are also narrative with what we picked. Isn't it?
I like that it's a tree next to a tree.
Yeah, I think that also.
Right.
Yeah. I think
yeah, there's a lot going in, a lot on there.
Yeah. We'll see how it develops. I think next week we're gonna have Open Studio for sure, and then I have to. I think I'm gonna work on this one. Yeah, but
okay.
I didn't put the original, but I will. So let me just put the original really quickly if I can find it.
So I Googled flocked Christmas trees, purple Christmas trees, and there were a ton. Apparently it's a thing. People want a purple tree.
Wow.
They spray it with like garbage.
Purple paint. It's like, why bother? Why bother? Just get a purple tree. Don't ruin a perfectly beautiful Christmas tree. Whatever. Anyway.
Cool. I don't know where I have the image, but yeah, this is the Harold Lloyd. For those of you who didn't see this during studio time, this is the Harold Lloyd Christmas tree.
What is that? I can't even.
Love it.
Harold Lloyd's Christmas
Yeah.
tree.
Yeah, and that's the Christmas tree room. And I was just thinking about it, and there's no way that this is a regular tree because
Yeah.
you put decorations in each branch, and a tree doesn't have that many branches, so I don't even know how this was constructed. But I think it looks like a Fabergé egg. It's so cool.
It's cool. It should be in a museum of art. It's cool. And that too.
Yeah, that's like mostly what a bizarre kind of like a overloaded tree looks like. So I think, I don't know if he had many or not, but yeah, he would change them. This is him, that same room but different tree, and this feels like more like a regular tree, I would say. But and then this I just love like.
Wait, we forgot to talk about the tree in that came to New York with the baby owl.
I know.
Remember the 2020 tree that came and they let it go and it went, ooh. And then there was a baby owl in it. That's why they shouldn't cut down trees, because there was a baby owl in it.
Oh, okay, that's a good
Remember?
idea. I'll find. Yeah, I think they even named the owl and they follow the story of the owl, and I think it's safe and back in nature or something like that. But
His name was Rocky.
Rocky?
Rockefeller.
Oh,
He's so cute.
that was so 2020, right, you guys?
Right.
People were dying.
I want to say, everybody, it's so great seeing all of you here.
Hi, Darlene.
I want to paint so bad.
Oh,
It's getting me
yeah,
through
well,
the day.
Darlene, thanks for joining, and you know that you have the access. I'm gonna try to upload this as quickly as possible, so you'll have the access to the webinar as long as, you know, whenever you.
I try. I wasn't ready to. I didn't have enough coordination to set up in the room yet, and I like to paint standing up, and I'm not allowed to put any pressure on my foot yet, so it just wasn't going to work. So
Can you draw? You get some oil pastels or something fun?
yeah, I mean, I can do that, but it's not the same as painting in the.
Yeah.
I'm digging the macrame thing behind your head.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, wow. Wow. It's spectacular.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Amazing.
Where'd you get that?
Believe it or not, West Elm.
Wow.
On their online, not in their store, only online. And
That looks really cool.
kind of needed, I'm in the guest room and I kind of needed something to go over the bed, and I'm afraid to have photos or paintings.
That
So
looks beautiful.
light, so
Yeah, it's beautiful.
thanks.
It's beautiful.
The
Well,
house is really changing since you've seen it, Claire.
Oh, I'll have to come visit one day.
I know. So,
By the way, I have some actual, Rich and my boyfriend inherited some Thomas Kincaid paintings. So I actually have a few in our closet,
Brilliant.
and one of them is not, I'll have to show it next time, but one of them is not that bad at all. But one of them. So
Close up so we can see
Yeah.
like the brush strokes, like what's going on, how he does that.
there's one I have it's kind of much more subtle than his other paintings, and if you would not know it was a Thomas Kincaid. But the
now that you
other
teased
you know,
us,
horrible.
Take
Darlene,
photos when
Yeah.
you're feeling
Yeah.
better. Don't stress yourself now, but we want.
Right.
But yeah, I'm really curious. Take photos if you can, whenever, and then
Yeah.
you can even upload them to this folder or just send them to us, and because we're curious. And now that we opened the conversation, it would be interesting to kind of like analyze and see differences, and it could be helpful for us as well to identify things that perhaps either we do or we don't do, or he does or he doesn't do. and it could be good, good for us since we opened the conversation.
Mhm. Yeah.
Hey, so speaking of inherited things and Don Wells paint supplies, I have so many pastels that I inherited from my father, whole boxes of each color. So if anyone wants pastels, I could put together little gift bags. Hey, yeah, and you could come pick them up for me. I have so many, and they're really beautiful. They're from like the 50s when he was an artist in New York City, and they're amazing. I'll put together a gift bag for you, Lois.
Oh, thank you. I'll make a picture for you.
Yay!
With
And Sarah, if you want any,
a portrait of your dad with the pastels. That'd be cool.
Okay, that'd be
Awesome.
cool.
Yeah. What a
Okay, that's a
nice
good
way.
exchange.
Yeah, it sounds beautiful. Thanks, Claire and Lois. Yeah. Show us the result, Lois, when it's done.
I love pastels.
Yeah, and Sarah and Darlene, if you want any, Julio, if you want any, I'll just
Okay.
put together a bunch of gift bags.
Okay, sounds good.
You can get them whenever.
Thank you.
Babalu came to say hi. Babalu.
Oh, hi.
Sorry. He's just very
so thank you so much. Thank you so much. And this was the best way to end the year. We still have one more day. I've been reading a bunch of projections for 2021 in regards of, because I'm really interested in finding out when we'll be able to go out. And it seems like it's not gonna be any different next year in that sense, because a lot of people are saying that it's gonna take a while. Even people are saying that even with the vaccination, people are going to be encouraged to wear masks and social distancing. So I think the mask and the social distancing, what it seems is that it's going to be remain with us for the rest of next year, actually. I don't know how open the rest is going to be and how much we're going to be able to travel or stuff like that. But more and more voices are saying that this is not just going to be April or May or summertime. Travel will resume and stuff, but the norms and the restrictions, or some of the restrictions, will be in place for at least another year. So we hope, so Claire will for sure will continue with this, because I think the winter is going to be really brutal, and it's just going to be really hard. But I think the rollout of the vaccines, I don't know how that's going to work, but even with more people getting vaccinated, I think we're still going to have to be sort of like isolated or distance or so. And I don't know, we'll see how it unfolds, but at least the beginning of the 2021, I project that things will remain the same in that sense, which is fine. And that what it pertains to us, it's fine. I just feel terrible for people that are struggling to keep their business open. And I just don't think I was watching the news of that group of people storming into Trader Joe's and Erewhon and Lassen's in Echo Park and screaming and making noise. And I was in shock, because we think that the nuts don't live here, and they're not young, but no, these are like young, supposedly progressive, or whatever you want to call it, people that are now just bursting into stores. And it's just like, I just can't believe it. I think it's just going to continue, and we just have to be careful. Anyhow, sorry, I jumped from one thing to another, but the news, those people were, I was in shock. So I feel like people with the vaccine, they have this idea that they give me the shot and then I'll be able to go mask free. So if people protest right now, I cannot even imagine what's going to happen when vaccines are rolled out and everyone gets them, or everyone who wants them. And we're still asked to wear masks and practice social, because it's going to happen. I think we're going to encounter these bursts of anger, which I understand, but this is not protesting. This is just bullying in a way. Protesting is a different thing for me, but this is just terrible. So we'll see how it plays out.
Well, there will probably be a lot of good paintings that will come out of
Yeah.
So I was going to say there's going
Right.
to be a lot more inspiration for our paintings.
Yeah, definitely. Our game is definitely up. So I think I'm excited for 2021. Let's see what happens.
I'm
Thank
afraid
you
to
so
get
much.
excited. I just try
What is
to
it?
get to 2021, and we'll take it a day at a time.
Yeah, no, I'm
Yeah.
positive, and we just have to be safe and continue to be safe and patient, because I feel like things will develop very slowly, not as fast as we wish them to go.
Yeah.
I hope, and hopefully, if everything goes well, we'll have more scientific voices telling us the proper things. There will be. I'm looking forward to also a new administration bringing more attention and images being publicized and data being publicized. So hopefully, this will be a good way of changing or adapting, or because I feel like now we're being told one thing and not being offered the visual or the data fully. And I feel like in some people that creates short circuits, and I understand, but I'm just looking forward to someone coming in, stepping up, and then really, really doing it properly, and or at least better than what we've been given. So, all right. Bye, guys. Happy New Year.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you
Happy
so much.
New Year.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.